Good evening and welcome to DD India Live. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh. Our top stories. Prime Minister Narendra Modi all set to take oath for a historic third consecutive term. World leaders invited to attend the swearing-in ceremony. Netherlands kicks off four-day European Parliament elections. European far-right expected to make gains. German Chancellor Scholz reiterates support for Ukraine to use Western weapons against Russian border strikes. Kremlin warns of consequences. Prime Minister Narendra Modi is all set to take charge once again for a historic third consecutive term. Leaders from Asia, Europe, Africa, West Asia and the Caribbean congratulated Prime Minister Modi on his win in the parliamentary elections. Congratulatory messages also poured in from leaders of the Nordic nations such as Denmark and Norway. Australia's Prime Minister Anthony Albanese congratulated Prime Minister Narendra Modi. In a post, he says on X, and I quote, "Great to speak with Narendra Modi today to congratulate him on his election victory. Australia and India are close friends with strong strategic, economic and cultural ties. We look forward to growing our partnership in 2024 and beyond." Unquote. Prime Minister Modi thanked the world leaders for their congratulatory messages for victory. Replying to President of European Commission Ursula von der Leyen, Prime Minister wrote on social media platform X, and I quote, "Thank President Ursula von der Leyen for her call. As we mark the 20th anniversary of the strategic partnership, we are committed to working together to further strengthen the ties for global good. My best wishes for the European parliamentary elections." And Prime Minister also received a phone call from French President Emmanuel Macron. Prime Minister wrote on X, and I quote, "Delighted to receive a phone call from my dear friend Emmanuel Macron. Conveyed my commitment to work together to accomplish the ambitious Horizon 2047 roadmap. The strong and trusted strategic partnership between India and France is slated to scale newer heights in the times to come." And New Delhi was sending out invitations to world leaders for swearing in of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's third term. Sri Lanka's President Ranil Wickremesinghe has accepted Prime Minister Modi's invitation to attend his swearing-in ceremony. Bangladesh's Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina would also be travelling to New Delhi for the oath-taking ceremony.
Will take the part of oath ceremonial program. You know very well that Honorable Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi, has invited our Prime Minister, and she has already accepted it and going to join the oath ceremonial program, which will be held the day after tomorrow. We hope that there should have some important meetings between the two leaders.
Meanwhile, BJP leaders Amit Shah and Rajnath Singh held talks with party President JP Nadda in New Delhi on Thursday as the ruling National Democratic Alliance (NDA) sets in motion the government formation efforts under leadership of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. NDA lawmakers will meet on Friday at the Parliament Central Hall, with the new government likely to be sworn in over the weekend. And DD India correspondent Dibyendu Mondal joins us with more updates. Dibyendu, what are the latest information on government formation and the much-awaited oath-taking ceremony?
Well, Shubhendu, it's just a matter of time now for the oath-taking ceremony to be held in the national capital here in New Delhi. It's of course will be held at the Rashtrapati Bhavan forecourt, like that of what we witnessed in 2014 and 2019. This will be the third term when Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be sworn in as the Prime Minister of India. This is perhaps historical and unprecedented also because of the fact that ever since 1962, this is the first time that two successful terms have been completed by a single largest party, which is the BJP, and for the third time the BJP again emerged as the single largest party, but this time around it will be a government of the NDA. To answer your question, Shubhendu, on what's taking place with regards to the new government formation, now that it is, it's an alliance government where the two major alliance partner TDP and JDU will be part of this government, apart from the fact that RLD, Chirag Paswan's LJP, Jitan Ram Manjhi's HAM, and other smaller, including Shiv Sena, Eknath Shinde as well as Ajit Pawar's NCP will be part of the alliance. Of course, negotiations are underway in terms of the distribution of the cabinet portfolios. Today, earlier in the day, we saw almost 3-hour-long meeting at BJP National President JP Nadda's house, which was attended by Defence Minister Rajnath Singh, Union Home Minister Amit Shah, also attended by other senior party leaders including Piyush Goyal, BL Santosh, Vinod Taude, Tarun Chugh, and other senior leaders of the BJP were present in the meeting. The meeting was it was discussed about the cabinet portfolio distribution within the BJP, and also how much can BJP shed and give portfolios to its ally partners, which is the allies that I mentioned. Back to you.
Right, Dibyendu, and finally, in the previous oath-taking ceremonies, we've seen the presence of world leaders, leaders from the neighborhood adds more importance to this ceremony as a whole, and this year would be no different.
Well, that's right. Even this time around, what we have information till now is that the Bangladesh Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina and Sri Lankan President is coming for the oath-taking ceremony because they have accepted the invitation. We are also given to understand that the government will be reaching out to other neighboring countries. In the first term, we saw all the SAARC leaders coming in. Similarly, in the second term, we also saw, including the SAARC leaders, other important friendly nations with India was also invited for the oath-taking ceremony. And this time, we will see, of course, the neighboring countries being invited for the oath-taking ceremonies. Of course, over the by today evening itself, we'll probably have a clearer picture about how many leaders would be attending the oath-taking ceremony of Prime Minister Narendra Modi for the third time. Back to you.
Dibyendu, thank you for those updates. The Lok Sabha, India's lower chamber of legislature, is getting ready to welcome the newly elected lawmakers. The welcome centres have been set up at railway stations and airports in New Delhi. Paperless digital processes have been set up for lawmakers to ensure seamless registration. Special arrangements have been made for simultaneous opening of bank accounts, issuing of identity card and government health scheme card to the newly elected lawmakers. Prime Minister Narendra Modi congratulated Claudia Sheinbaum for winning Mexico's presidential elections. In a social media post on X, he says, "Congratulations to Claudia Sheinbaum, Mexico's first woman president-elect. This is a momentous occasion for the people of Mexico, a tribute to the great leadership of President López Obrador as well." Prime Minister said he was looking forward to continued collaboration and shared progress with Mexico's new leadership. Moving on, 4 days of voting in the European Parliament elections kicked off in the Netherlands on Thursday. Dutch nationalist Geert de Wilders has cast his ballot, and he looked set for new electoral gains as nationwide opinion polls shows his party in a tie for the first place with the Labour and Green Left combination, with both projected to get about 8 seats. The election, to be held across all 27 EU member states from 6th to 9th of June, will have an impact across the European Union and beyond. Polling in the Netherlands will be followed by Ireland and Malta on Friday and Latvia and Slovakia on Saturday. The remaining EU member states will vote on Sunday. Results are expected by Sunday evening local time. 370 million people in all 27 EU member states are eligible to vote. Voters will be selecting 720 members of the European Parliament. Seats are allocated according to each country's population. Britain's Labour Party accused Prime Minister Rishi Sunak on Wednesday of lying in a pre-election debate when he said that Labour would increase taxes by more than $2,500 for a family. Sunak, whose Conservative Party is struggling in opinion polls before the 4th July elections, used the figure repeatedly in Tuesday's television debate with opposition Labour leader Keir Starmer. Starmer made the comments in Portsmouth, where Sunak and him visited as part of the World War II D-Day commemoration. Starmer said that he stood by Vaughan Gething, leader of the semi-autonomous Welsh government, who lost a non-binding vote of confidence on Wednesday.
That all of our plans are fully costed and fully funded. And that means no tax rises for working people. And I'll spell that out. No income tax, no national insurance, no VAT. What you saw last night was a Prime Minister with his back against the wall, desperately trying to defend 14 years of failure, resorting, and it was a flash of his character, an insight into his character, to lies.
South African Party African National Congress leaders ANC held talks on Thursday to try agree on potential partners to form a new South African government. South Africa's long governing party, African National Congress, says it is looking at all options to form a new government after losing its parliamentary majority in a historic election last week. The announcement was made by the party's Secretary General hours before its National Executive Committee was due to meet. Correspondent Chris Okamarenga has more from Kinshasa.
Senior officials of the African National Congress Party are holding talks about sharing power. The development follows the party's loss of its parliamentary majority in South Africa's election late last month. The party garnered 40.2% of the vote, down from 57.5% in 2019. The ANC's closest challenger, the Democratic Alliance, got 21.8% of the vote. Talks between them are likely to be tough because of the criticism that the leaders of the Democratic Alliance have been leveling at the ANC. The ANC Secretary General, Fikile Mbalula, told journalists that President Cyril Ramaphosa will announce the decision reached by the National Executive Committee after their meeting. South Africa is one of the continent's most developed countries, but it has some of the world's highest unemployment rates. The ANC accepted the outcome of the polls last week, describing it as the strength of the country's democracy. Chris Ochamringa in Kinshasa for DD India.
And still to come on this edition of DD India Live. World leaders and veterans gathered at Normandy in France to mark the 80th anniversary of the D-Day landings. Israel strikes school in central Gaza, says eliminated Hamas terrorist hiding in UNRWA school.
Wherever news breaks, whatever it takes.
Connecting corners, cutting across continents.
Stories that matter from across the globe.
Accurate, authentic journalism that serves you right. From politics to glamour, from sports to world affairs, with a fusion of aesthetics and substance. Introducing news in a new avatar. Experience the world through a new lens. Stay tuned to DD India for an exciting journey beyond borders.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh. Veterans and world leaders gathered in France to mark the 80th anniversary of June 6, 1944 D-Day landings. This day is regarded as the turning point for World War II, as more than 150,000 Allied soldiers arrived in France by sea and air to drive out the forces of Nazi Germany. Leaders like US President Joe Biden, British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, Britain's King Charles and French President Emmanuel Macron marked their presence during the ceremony. And US President Biden met veterans who took part in the D-Day landings in Normandy, thanking the surviving veterans for bravery and sacrifice. Biden and First Lady Jill Biden presented commemorative coin to each veteran. And British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak also paid tributes to the D-Day veterans. Addressing the British ceremony in Versailles, British Prime Minister said he was humbled to be in the presence of veterans in attendance.
The Green Howards, he landed in the first wave to storm Gold Beach. 80 years ago, the weather broke, and the greatest invasion force in history left the shores of Britain to liberate Europe. We are here today to remember the sacrifice of the tens of thousands who did not make it home. And we are here to honour the service of those who did.
On to some other stories. The Kremlin on Thursday said that Western countries which supply Ukraine with weapons to directly strike Russia will definitely face consequences. Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov's comments came after President Putin earlier said he could supply weapons within striking distance of interest associated with the United States and its European allies if they allowed Kiev to strike deeper into Russia with long-range Western weapons. Earlier on Wednesday, Russian President Vladimir Putin cautioned the West that Russia could use all available means to defend itself if its sovereignty or territorial integrity were threatened. Speaking to editors of international news agencies in St. Petersburg, Putin said Russia's nuclear doctrine permits such weapons to be used in response to a number of threats. However, he added that Russia had no plans to attack NATO member states.
Тема очень жесткая.
For some reason, the West believes that Russia will never use them. We have a nuclear doctrine. Look what it says. If someone's actions threaten our sovereignty and territorial integrity, we consider it possible for us to use all means at our disposal. This should not be taken lightly, superficially but professionally.
And Putin also said supply of weapons to war zones was a bad thing and a dangerous move. He specifically mentioned German arms deliveries to Ukraine. He said that German tanks on the battlefield in Ukraine came as a moral and ethical shock in Russia. Putin said if German-supplied missiles ever strike targets on Russian territory, it would ultimately destroy bilateral relations.
Now when they say that some more missiles will appear that will strike targets on Russian territory, this of course is ultimately destroying Russo-German relations.
Meanwhile, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz on Thursday reiterated his stance that Ukraine could use weapons supplied by the West to defend itself against attacks launched from just inside Russia, particularly those made against the Kharkiv region. Addressing the lower house of Germany's legislature, Scholz said Ukraine can also use weapons supplied by the United States and allies in order to defend itself from Russian attacks, but always in accordance with international legal obligations.
We have jointly reaffirmed that Ukraine has the right under international law to defend itself against attacks on its territory, its cities and its citizens. This also applies to attacks such as those in the Kharkiv area, which Russia carries out from positions in the directly neighboring Russian border area. Ukraine can also use the weapons supplied by us and our allies to defend itself against such attacks.
And DD India correspondent Dasha Chernashova joins us live from Moscow with more on these developments. Dasha, Russia warns of consequences to countries providing weapons to Ukraine to strike inside Russia. What could be these consequences?
Well, certainly Moscow says that any country that is providing weapons to Ukraine is doing a very bad thing, especially since in this case we're not talking just about the arms deliveries but also about the arms management. With regard to that, President Vladimir Putin has explained that it is impossible to use some of those long-range weapons without the Western countries' help, their space intelligence data as well as their specialists who manage the certain types of weapons such as ATACMS and Storm Shadows, and that's why he said that Russia cannot leave this move unattended and unanswered if Ukraine is allowed to use those weapons against the targets inside Russia. He said that first of all Moscow is going to improve its air defense systems to make sure that Russia is safe from those threats, but also he noted that Moscow reserves the right to provide same class weapons to the countries that are in the close vicinity to the Western countries that provide such weapons to Ukraine, so that it creates some sort of sensitivity, a vulnerability to the Western countries. And the Kremlin on Thursday said very clearly that the Russian president has made clear that this move, this permission for Ukraine, will not be left unanswered. So we are expecting now to hear for more details from the Kremlin as to where Russia is going to provide these types of weapons. So far, the Kremlin said the Russian president has explicitly outlined Russia's position, but again, we don't know yet where those weapons could be located.
Dasha, thank you for those updates. NATO Secretary General Hans Stoltenberg has said on Thursday that allies should ensure that gaps in military support to Ukraine are not repeated. He added that Ukraine needed predictability and accountability in terms of military support.
Over the last months, we have seen some gaps, some delays in the provision of military support to Ukraine. We need to ensure that that doesn't happen again, and that's the reason why we are now working in NATO on how to establish a NATO mission for Ukraine, and also how to agree a long-term financial pledge to ensure that Ukraine gets the predictability and the accountability they need when it comes to military support from NATO allies to Ukraine.
And from one conflict to another, Israel on Thursday claimed to have eliminated several Hamas terrorists in an airstrike on a school in central Gaza. Israel's military says the fighter jets conducted a precise strike on the Hamas compound inside a United Nations school in Nuseirat, targeting terrorists involved in the 7th October attacks. Israel's military says it had taken steps to protect civilians before its fighter jets carried out a strike. However, at least 40 people are reportedly dead in the strikes. In a statement, Israeli military spokesperson Peter Lerner accused Hamas of deliberately using UN facilities as operational bases. He also added that 20 to 30 Hamas terrorists were located in the compound, and many of them had been killed. Israel also struck Hezbollah targets in Lebanon on Thursday after the group carried out airstrikes inside Israel's territory. An Israeli military video shows its forces hitting Hezbollah observation post near Lebanese town of Qiyam and a military structure near the village of Aitha Ashab. The Hezbollah projectiles, described by the group as kamikaze drones, were launched into the northern Israel on Wednesday. At least 7 people were wounded in the attacks. Meanwhile, negotiations continue between Israel and Hamas aimed at securing a ceasefire and the release of hostages. United States, the UK, Canada, Germany and several other countries have called on Hamas to accept the proposal by US President Joe Biden for a permanent ceasefire in the enclave. Moving on, aiming to promote Indian toy industry at both manufacturing and export levels, a delegation led by Toy Association of India arrived in the UAE. The delegation visited the Bharat Mart in Dubai and explored prospects in Abu Dhabi, as well as India toy industry got a major facelift in 2020. Manufacturing this reduced the imports by over 50% and rose exports by 240%. India-UAE Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement has boosted the competitiveness of Indian toys by granting them zero-duty access to the UAE market. Additionally, Indian toy manufacturers' compliance with Gulf Standards Organization facilitates seamless export processes and enhances the appeal of Indian toys in the Gulf region.
Our main purpose is to promote the Indian toys in this region, because earlier it was very negligible export from India to the UAE, but now after the SEPA, FTA between the two countries, so now there is duty-free toys coming from India in UAE. This is a boost of the industry, so I hope in coming years we will do big business in this region.
Let's now turn to other stories making news around the world. Australia's Foreign Minister Penny Wong on Thursday said that her country seeks to deepen diplomatic ties with its Pacific neighbour of Solomon Islands. This comes in the event of China competing for stronger presence on the island nation. China has a policing presence under a pact signed between the two countries in 2022. A tram crash in the Russian city of Kemerovo in southwest Siberia killed one person on Thursday morning. Russia's Interfax news agency said in its report that up to 102 people had been injured after the runaway tram crashed into others further down the line. In his first state visit to Brazil, Croatia's President Zoran Milanovic met with Croatian community in Sao Paulo on Wednesday. He also met with his host and counterpart, Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva. It was the first meeting between the leaders of the two countries since the establishment of diplomatic ties in 1992. Mohammad Azam, a taxi driver in the coastal city of Alexandria in Egypt, has turned his taxi into a mobile book service. He hopes to encourage more people to read, aiming to make books accessible and affordable for whoever finds the service. He calls his initiative Taxi Book. 10 cities of Germany have been chosen as host cities for Euro 2024, with Berlin's Olympic Stadium hosting the finals. Being the tournament's biggest venue, the Olympic Stadium will stage 3 group stage matches, a round of 16 tie and a quarter-final. The other venues include Cologne Stadium, Dortmund Stadium, Frankfurt Arena and the Stuttgart Arena. This is the first major soccer tournament to be held solely in Germany since the 2006 World Cup, fondly remembered as the summer fairy tale. That's all for this edition of DD India Live. Let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan this QR code on your screens to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Live. Namaskar.